Hey, so if you're freaking out about the next 4 years in American politics, whatever side you're on, I've got some good advice that might calm you down right now. I heard this from the meditation teacher Sharon Salzberg. Think about getting through the next 4 years of tumult and disagreement in American politics as a 4-year bit. Then it becomes unmanageable. Instead, Sharon said, just think about it as one moment at a time. One moment at a time. That you can do. If you get stuck in projections into everything that could possibly happen in the future, it makes you less effective. All you can do is the next right thing. Just do the next right thing.
Just do the next right thing. I actually wrote that down. It's not an easy thing to do, though, in practice. After what feels like some of our worst fears, my worst fears, comes to life over the last 5 days. All at once, in the last week, the first week of this administration. That's why our friend Dan Harris is back today at the table. He's host of the 10% Happier podcast and former ABC News anchor to help us break them all down in a way that induces less anxiety and more of a feeling of survivability. One of the things I know, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me. I worked at ABC for 20 years, so like
you
I'm
never
in
sat
enemy
in it.
territory.
You've never been in
yes.
it. Yeah, well, we're so happy to have you here. So one of the pieces of advice you've dispensed this week is to have compassion. And if you are from a politically divided team or family, I think that works until the cruelty starts in policy and practice. Yeah. And I wonder how you have compassion for people who don't have compassion for the most vulnerable people in our society who are now facing fear and deportation.
I had a suspicion you were going to start with this. So let's.
I almost commented, and then I was like, no, I'll wait.
Let's make it. Let's start with the easier part.
All right.
I think compassion is incredibly powerful, and let's start with being compassionate toward ourselves. If we're trying to make it through this period of time without sleep, without seeing our friends, without putting down our phones, we're going to be less effective. So I know for me, if I start by filling my own cup, to use the cliche, but you can't pour from an empty cup. You have to start there. So we could talk about the more difficult and controversial aspects of compassion, but I think that's a great place to start.
The self-care piece.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not self-indulgent. You're useless if you haven't slept.
Right.
You're useless if you're lonely. So take care of yourself
cup of coffee
first.
And I wonder what you can sort of tell us about how much is too much. And I know some of that is like self-measuring if you're feeling anxiety, but just, I mean, how much news have you taken in this week?
I'm pretty careful about how much news I take in. I take in some, but I don't overindulge. And I really think this is where, as you know, I talk a lot about meditation, which boosts your self-awareness. And it can help you figure out, like, as I've joked to you before, am I on hour 8 and I'm typing in all caps on Twitter, that maybe it's time to put the phone down. And so I think having some self-awareness, some practice that boosts your capacity to self-monitor can help you figure out, because everybody's nervous system is different. So I'm not here with one-size-fits-all advice. I also want to be clear, I'm Mr. 10% happier. I'm not all about magical cures. Like, this time is difficult. Yeah. And I don't want to sugarcoat that.
Yeah.
So I'm not here to say, hey, take a few deep breaths, it all goes away. I think there are little things we can do to make us marginally happier and calmer, which will, by extension, make us more effective.
I mean, I took the advice that you had last time about not suffering alone, and I think we're so privileged. I mean, this is a position of privilege, and one of the privileges is you get to sort of touch and help tell the stories of the people with serious pain. I mean, the officers who faced violence on that day, I've had the privilege of getting to talk to Harry Dunn and Mike Fanone. But they leave and they're off the air, and I feel the anxiety that they go to bed with at night and the worries they have for their family. And how do you tell the stories and sort of platform their pain and their real trauma without being traumatized all over again?
Yeah, I can see on your face that this is difficult. I think a key thing that's helpful is to know the difference between empathy and compassion. Empathy is a hardwired trait that we all have, or most of us have, which is to feel other people's feelings. However, you can get swamped in that. If you're just feeling it and there's no break on it. Compassion is empathy plus the desire to help, even when you can't help. So if you're watching the news and you're seeing people who are suffering, there's a little Buddhist phrase you can drop in your mind, which is, may you be free from suffering. And that switches the mind from overwhelm and then a desire to unplug and tune out and numb out, to leaned in, empowered, ennobled. And then even if there's nothing you can do, you can still wish that they be free from suffering. But you may also start to see in that clearer mindset, well, here's something I can do. I can send money. I can volunteer.
Yeah.
That, and as we've discussed before, action absorbs anxiety. That is the way out of this, I think, for many of us.
Jane Fonda talks about that she had such panic about climate. And so it really, she couldn't reduce the panic, but she increased her activism around that.